Sparkle and Black Swan will be the new featured 5 stars for the 2.0 update. How's it going, everyone? This is Kay, and let's break down the new characters' skills and roles, as well as the returning 5 stars to see which character you should prioritize pulling. Black Swan specializes in DOT. Basic is a single target wind attack that has a chance to inflict 1 stack of Arcana debuff on the target. Additionally, if they already have DOT type debuffs like Wind Shear, Burn, Bleed, or Shock, each has a chance to further inflict 1 extra Arcana stack on the enemy. So Arcana stacks are a type of wind DOT, and enemies are considered to be in the Wind Shear state. Now, this does not mean it is the same as Wind Shear debuff. It's similar to Kafka's LC, where it has Erode that deals Lightning DOT. Her skill deals both single target and adjacent damage, which also has a high chance to inflict an Arcana stack on them. The skill can also debuff the enemy's defense, increasing overall damage for your whole entire team. So these Arcana stacks obviously plays an important role for Black Swan. With her talent, whenever an enemy receives DOT at the start of their turn, there is yet another chance to inflict the Arcana debuff onto them. While afflicted by Arcana, the enemy will receive Wind DOT every turn, scaling with Black Swan's attack. Now for each stack they carry, the Wind DOT's multiplier will increase based on the talent's level. Once the enemy takes this Wind DOT damage at the start of their turn, the Arcana stacks will reset to 1. Max stacks you can have is 50. Black Swan can also trigger additional effects depending on the number of Arcana stacks that are on the enemy. If the target takes Arcana damage while having 3 stacks or more, it deals Wind DOT to adjacent enemies with a chance to add a stack onto the adjacent targets. If there is 7 or more stacks, the current DOT dealt ignores 20% of the target and adjacent enemy's defense. Her ultimate deals AoE damage and inflicts another debuff on all enemies called Epiphany, which lasts for 2 turns. Enemies affected by this receives more damage during their turn, so basically more DOT damage. Their Arcana debuff is also then regarded as Wind Shear, Burn, Bleed, and Shock effects. On top of that, the Arcana stacks on the enemy will not reset 1 time while the Epiphany debuff is active. It's basically 1 prevention per ult use. You can recharge this when you apply the Epiphany again. Basically, you want to use your ultimate to keep all the Arcana stacks on the enemy. Now, Black Swan will have other abilities that can add even more Arcana stacks. Once unlocked, her skill will have a similar effect like her basic attack, in which you can inflict stacks if you hit enemies that already has any of the 4 main DOT types. There's another ability in which enemies receive more stacks when hit by team members. So Black Swan is going to be a strong damage dealer. Since DOT will be her primary form of damage, there's some flexibility in terms of her relics and stats since DOTs can't crit. Now this does not mean she can't benefit from crits, it's just less demanding compared to traditional DPSs. Combined with Kafka, you're going to deal massive amounts of damage. Whether she's able to compete with current S-tier DPSs remains to be seen, but she has a lot of potential. Sparkle is a Quantum Harmony character. Right away, you're probably thinking about a mono quantum team with Zilla. If so, then you'd be correct, as Sparkle does have an ability that buffs attack for all units with an additional buff to quantum characters based on the number of quantums you have on the team. But first, her basic attack is the standard single target damage, but you'll rarely use this in favor of her skill. Now, her skill increases a character's crit damage, scaling with her own crit damage stats, as well as giving a flat percentage on top depending on the skill's level. Additionally, the unit that received the buff will have a 50% advance forward. The buff lasts for 1 turn, which is why you won't really use her basic since you'll need to constantly reapply her skill. Now, you may think she's an SP negative character, but she's not. This is thanks to several things Sparkle offers. For one, her talent increases the max number of skill points by 2, so instead of the usual 5, you'll now have 7 to work with. The talent also gives a damage buff to all party members whenever skill points are used. The damage buff effect can stack up to a certain limit. When using Sparkle's ultimate, she regenerates 4 skill points. That's right, 4 skill points. So thanks to this, she is an SP positive character given that you spam her ult. What's more is that her ult also grants a status that further increases the stack's damage buff from her talent. So the thing about Sparkle is, she's a strong general support unit who can help quantum teams a bit more. This does not mean she's locked into a mono team for that element. Aside from one ability, she increases the team's damage and generates skill points, which is beneficial to all types of teams, especially SP-hungry teams like Dan Heng IL. Because of this, she can be one of the best units for free-to-plays or new players, as there's less SP management involved. Now, if you already have an SP-positive team and all characters can effectively use their skills without worry, then her skill point abilities is less effective, and you may benefit more with a different support. Regardless, Sparkle is a great support, and if you have that expensive Quantum team, Zilla, Silver Wolf, and Fushuan, then you're going to have a lot of fun. Don't forget, future Quantum DPSs will eventually come out as well, so if you hate Zilla or Qinghe, for example, doesn't hurt to have a complete team till then. Dan Heng IL is a very powerful DPS, but he is a SP hungry unit, and by hungry, I mean you gotta feed the guy. You want to use his max level enhancement from the skill, and once he initiates his enhanced basic attack, it'll consume the same amount of skill points used. You want to always use his level 3 basic, which means 3 skill points will be consumed every time he attacks. Not only does level 3 have higher multipliers, but it also has more hit counts, and his skill increases crit damage from the 4th hit onwards, so again, you want to maximize his buff. His talent also increases his damage per hit. Now, to alleviate the high SP requirements, his ultimate generates Squamma stacks that is consumed in place of a skill point. This means after his ult, IL will require only 1 skill point. So Dan Heng IL excels in both single target battles and AoE situations since he can deal high adjacent damage. His team will have some restrictions, however, since you need SP positive units to feed his attacks, and not all supports can generate enough skill points in time for his turn. So there's going to be a lot of skill point management involved. For Eidolons, E2 is generally a good stopping point. Now obviously, if you can max him out, it'll be a lot better, but not everyone can afford that. But since he's a rerun character, there's a chance you can pull multiple copies of him again. At E2, it'll advance forward his action by 100% after using his ultimate, and it'll give an extra Squamma stack, so now it'll cost nothing for 1 level 3 attack. So IL continues to sit on top of the tier list in terms of DPSs we have, and will really dominate in battles where imaginary DPSs are needed. Despite being an erudition path, Jing Yuan can also work very well in single target battles thanks to his Lightning Lord. You'll use his skill and ultimate to deal AoE damage, but the main purpose is to strengthen and advance his Lightning Lord's damage. Lightning Lord comes from his talent and has a base speed of 60 and 3 hits per action. Its attack is considered follow-up, so relics and allies that can increase follow-up can be very helpful. It has a max of 10 hits per action, and when it increases above its base HPA, Lightning Lord's speed increases by 10 per point. Once the attack finishes, hits per action and speed returns to its base value. When it attacks, each hit targets a single random enemy and deals adjacent damage. The randomness will have undesirable results at times since you typically want the main attack and bulk of the damage to hit your primary target. This is something you can't really control other than killing out some of the mobs. But this is also why Jing Yuan can be very effective in single target battles, since with only 1 enemy, Lightning Lord's attack is guaranteed to hit that target, effectively shredding the toughness if they are weak against lightning. His skill gives 2 HPAs and his ultimate will give 3, so it's important you use his ultimate a lot. His main role, use those abilities to enhance Lightning Lord. Jing Yuan will also have traces that can increase crit rate and damage. Now, it's important to remember that Lightning Lord will gain buffs from the team as long as Jing Yuan retains them. This is where some timing is involved since Lightning Lord is on a separate turn. If Jing Yuan loses any buffs after his turn, the LL will not be enhanced. Overall, Jing Yuan is going to be a very effective AoE and single target unit. Who should you pull for on the Star Rail 2.0 banners? With so many characters being released, it really depends on what you already have. Now, I wouldn't recommend, for example, Black Swan if you don't have effective DOT characters, LCs, and supports, or if you just hate DOTs in general. As a universal support character, Sparkle can provide the most value. This is because she can be placed into any teams. Crit damage buff and team-wide damage buff along with her signature skill point generation is something most teams will benefit from. She can also further buff Quantum Team's damage, giving her a specific and unique role on top of being a general supporter. She's most effective in SP-hungry teams, which makes her future-proof as well since skill points will forever be used in this game. Sparkle is less recommended if your main teams do not require any extra SPs, in which case a different support can be more useful. Next priority is between IL or Black Swan. Since Black Swan isn't officially out yet, it's hard to say if she can beat an S tier unit like IL. Both have different playstyles and roles though. I'd recommend Black Swan if you have Kafka, as you're going to see insane amounts of damage. Her DOT playstyle also makes her unique and future-proof since DOT characters and support will eventually come out, making her even better. Dan Heng IL is a traditional DPS character, so he's naturally going to face a lot of competition. In terms of being an imaginary DPS, we all did receive a free Dr. Ratio who is a monster single target damage dealer. So if you need another imaginary DPS character, particularly one that is good in AoE situations, IL is second to none. But if you're already surviving without any imaginary DPSs, or Dr. Ratio is more than enough, you can prioritize other characters. But just know IL has remained a highly used character in MOC. So in terms of what we know, Ayao is the safer option compared to Black Swan. Jing Yuan is still very good, but sadly outshined by many others. His toughness shredding is one of the best, giving him value against lightning weakness enemies. For how often you'll need him, however, really depends on the player, but as mentioned, there are many DPSs that can be more effective. But comment down below to let me know which character you're pulling for on the 2.0 banners. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for future Star Rail and Genshin videos. Good luck on your pulls, everyone. Till next time.